Tim's branch line had a station by a river. As he rumbled over the bridge, he would see people fishing. Sometimes they stood quietly by their lines. Sometimes they were actually jerking fish out of the water. Timmins often wanted to stay and watch, but his driver said, "No, what would Sir Topham Hatt say if we were late?" Timmins thought it would be lovely to stop by the river. "I should like to go fishing," he said to himself longingly. Every time he met another Indian, he would say, "I want to fish." They all answered, "Indians don't go fishing." Silly sick in the muds, he would snort impatiently. Timmins generally had to take in waiter at the station by the river. One day, he stopped as usual, and his fireman put the pipe from the waiter tower in his tank. Then he turned the tap, but it was out of order and no waiter came. "Brother," said Timmins, "I'm thirsty." "Never mind," said his driver. "We'll get some water from the river." They found a bucket and some rope and went to the bridge. Then the driver let the bucket down to the waiter. The bucket was old and had 5 holes. They had to fill it, pull it up, and empty it into Timmins' tank as quickly as they could. "There's a hole in my bucket. Dear Liza, dear Liza," sang the fireman. "Never mind about Liza," said the driver. "You empty that bucket before you spill the waiter over me." They finished at last. That's good, puffed Timmins as he started. And Annie and Clarabel ran happily behind. They puffed along the valley and were in the tunnel when Timmins began to feel a pain in his boiler, while steam hissed from his safety valve in an alarming way. "There's too much steam," said his driver, and his fireman opened the tap in the feed pipe to let more water into the boiler, but none came. "Oh, dear," groaned Thomas. "I'm going to burst. I'm going to burst." They dumped down his fire and struggled on. "I've got such a pain. I've got such a pain." Timmis's just outside the last station. They stopped, uncoupled Annie and Clarabel, and ran Thomas, who was still hissing fit to burst, on a siding right out of the way. Then, while the conductor telephoned for an engine inspector, and the fireman was putting out the fire, the driver wrote notice in large letters, which he hung on Thomas in front, and behind, "Danger, keep away." Soon the inspector and Sir Topham Hatt arrived. "Cheer up, Thomas," they said. "We'll soon put you right." The driver told him what had happened, "So the feed pipe is blocked," said the inspector. "I'll just look in the tanks." He climbed up and peered in, then he came down. "Excuse me, sir," he said to Sir Topham Hatt. "Please look in the tank and tell me what you see." The inspector. He clambered up, looked in, and nearly fell off in surprise. "Inspector," he whispered, "can you see fish?" "Gracious goodness me," said Sir Topham Hatt. "How did the fish get there, driver?" Timmins' driver scratched his head. "We must have fished them from the river," and he told him about the bucket. Sir Topham Hatt laughed. "Well, Timmins, so you and your driver have been fishing, but fish don't suit you, and we must get them out." So the driver and fireman fetched rods and nets, and they all took turns at fishing in Timmins' tank, while Sir Topham Hatt told them how to do it. When they had caught all the fish, the station master gave them some potatoes. The driver bore out a frying pan, while the fireman made a fire beside the line and did the cooking. Then they all had a lovely picnic supper of fish and chips. "That was good," said Sir Topham Hatt as he finished his share. "But fish don't suit you, Timmins, so you mustn't do it again." "No, sir, I won't," said Timmins sadly. "Engines don't go fishing. It's too uncomfortable."